5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And then
You gotta have the mayor.
and then I just turn it over to you. So I want to go first. Just let me know when we should start. There's an interesting article in this week's New Yorker on the future of Okay, are we ready? Hey, I want to start off. This is John. Thank you, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here. And we start out, I want to thank Faye DeMassimo for the introduction to getting to this meeting and for her fabulous work in Nashville's transportation plan. Now, when we started out, none of us could have predicted that the plan would be created during the most challenging year in city's history. We entered 2020 with the worst budget crisis in our city. Then we had the March tornado, the derecho, the COVID pandemic, the Christmas Day bombing, and the sharpest recession in our nation's history, and one that we felt and continue to feel in Nashville, but we endured. And with Faye and her team, we've delivered on the promise of building a people-first, multimodal transportation plan during our first year here. Now, it's a right-sized, long-term investment in our community that's going to ensure the success of Nashville and the region. There's no transportation without thinking regionally to get us to the other side of this crisis. Now, there were public listening sessions to prioritize the needs of our residents, and we're going to succeed, however, with the help of all of our local and state partners. The plan puts 92% of our population and 94% of our employment within a half a mile of this project. And we are beginning to see success in implementation. Nashville is one of only 10 cities that received a federal grant to improve congestion through technology, and that's going on Avenue right now. And it was TDOT's partnership that made that possible. So a special shout out to TDOT. We're also pursuing implementation opportunities for the Downtown Neighborhood Traffic Project, our much needed traffic management center, and the Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge to support development of our Equity by Design tool. And we hope to use a demonstration of that tool as we begin the redesign of the Jefferson Street sub area. I want to thank all the federal and state agencies joining us today, and particularly recognize Pam Cordenbrock of the Federal Highway Administration, and Yvette Taylor of the FTA, and Paul Diggs, Chief Engineer at TDOT. I'm grateful to everyone here for your support and the ongoing partnership that's going to be required to make this plan a success. And with that, let me turn it over to Faye DeMassimo for a more in-depth overview of this transportation plan passed by a supermajority of the City Council and our plan going forward for the future ahead in Nashville. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Faye, very much.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a great opportunity to see you all this morning. I know we're seeing each other virtually, but it is great to have you all here. And as the mayor mentioned, we are particularly grateful for the partnerships with those key federal agencies that are represented here this morning. Federal Highway, Federal Transit Administration, and of course, Commissioner Bright is here with us this morning also from the Tennessee Department of Transportation. Before we go into the overview of the transportation plan, though, I want to thank a few other partners. You're going to get to hear from our federal and state partners a little later in the presentation this morning, but I wanted to call out a few others that are on the phone this morning that supported some of the particular technical components of our transportation plan. The mayor mentioned to you this remarkable year that we have endured or fully met the challenges, however you want to look at it, here in Metro Nashville over this past year. And the budgets to blast, I think we're the most resilient city in America, and I think that this transportation plan is evidence of being able to take a particularly challenging time and continue to deliver on promises that have been made to the community for a better tomorrow. Thank you to the partners, Sharon Green and Amanda Vandergriff, who are on the call today from InfoStrategies. They performed we had a unique funding approach that we're going to talk a little bit about in the overview, opportunistic funding approach that really required a deep dive into financial strategies that could support implementation. And we are grateful to them for their work. Wasim Selman and James Hudgens with Arcadis. Arcadis did a remarkable job of the traffic impact analysis and traffic management analysis that's included in the plan. That traffic management component is critical because it's all kinds of traffic. It's our pedestrian traffic, it's our transit traffic, it's our vehicular traffic, it's our delivery traffic. It's all of those things. And as we know, Nashville has one of the most diverse traffic demand cores, I think, of anywhere. We have some, especially with all of our hospitality and tourism industry. And then also Jim Zarnecki is on here today from HDR. HDR also contributed strongly to the development of this plan with the cost estimate, scope validation, cost benefit analysis. That was a really core necessary part of revalidating things that we've done in the past, because we did take an approach to the plan, again, that we're going to talk about a little bit more, particularly around how we took work, because there's a lot of really good work that's been done in Metro Nashville that has not yet been implemented. I also wanted to be sure to echo the mayor's comments around that plans like this exist not only in partnerships that we're going to celebrate today, but also very much in regions. And Michael Skipper and his team are also a part of this call today. And we appreciate the work that GNRC does in the region and the support that they provided us in the development of the plan. They were there every step of the way through the community development process, at our community input process, and we deeply appreciate it. So Michael, thank you for all of the work by GNRC. Let's go to our first slide. Very good. So the Metro Nashville Transportation Plan started about a year ago, just a little over a year ago. And we started, of course, before the pandemic. So we were very fortunate that during that early period of time, we did have the opportunity to do some really robust public outreach around both community meetings, and we're going to talk a little bit about those, but also around the stakeholders that are critical inputs into the development of the process. Next slide. Our vision statement was to create a multimodal system for all that offers choice and better connects our neighborhoods, our residents, our businesses to the places that they need and want to go in a safe manner. When Mayor Cooper was running for mayor, one of the things that he committed to was a people-first transportation plan. And you can see that in every piece of this plan, including this vision statement. It really was focused on our neighborhoods, and that's all kinds of neighborhoods. Those are our residential neighborhoods, front and center, but also those core business neighborhoods, especially in our downtown, that represent the vitality of the Metro Nashville area. Next slide. So our approach and our process given where we were, is we really wanted to leverage past efforts, to respect those past efforts. There was a lot of value and a lot of contribution already of both the community and our resources that had been engaged in through the planning process of both WEGO, and I know Steve Bland is joining us this morning, the director of our regional and metro transit system. So looking at all of those studies, as well as studies that had been done leading up to previous plan development efforts or referendum efforts, and plans that had been done by our planning department, by our public works department, and plans that had been done by TDOT that all served to inform that approach. And so we made sure to leverage that. So this was really more about curating a broad body of effort down to what the mayor called a right-sized plan that really met that vision statement that we just spoke about. There was extensive metro-wide outreach, including 11 community meetings that were all across Metro Nashville and 36 stakeholder conversations. And that was every kind of stakeholder group, from it could have been our Chamber of Commerce to groups that represent New Americans, to groups that represent our disabled populations, to those that represent our transit constituencies, to those that represent neighborhoods. So it was really every sort of perspective that was brought to the table. And in those 11 community listening sessions and those 36 stakeholder conversations, what was remarkable was we did a lot of work around, when we first went out to engage in those efforts, we told those participating that we were there to listen. We weren't there to say, here's the plan, what do you think? We were here to say, what do you think? And one of the efforts that you may have heard about or even had a chance to participate in was one where we gave the participants $20, obviously not real money, but $20, and we gave them 9 different project types: sidewalks, transit, traffic signals, safety improvements, and so forth. And we asked the individuals participating to tell us how they would spend that money. How would they do it? So it was the sort of situation that our council and the mayor's office finds ourselves in every day, of having a finite amount of resources and a broad range of needs. We were very purposeful with that because we didn't want to talk about specific projects. We wanted to talk about types of investments, and really force the community to think around that sort of broader range of investment types. It was remarkable from this perspective of these 11 community listening sessions that were held, again, all across Metro Nashville, and the 36 stakeholder conversations, and multitudes of activities with our city council members, because they were deeply involved from start to finish. And if you're familiar with Metro Nashville, you know we have 40 city council members. We also found that there was a remarkable amount of consistency. So transit was the #1 priority, followed closely by sidewalks, followed closely by state of good repair. So we wanted to be sure that we were taking care of what we have. We wanted to be sure that sidewalks, which are enormously popular here, were being invested in. And we wanted to make sure that the transit system, in terms of broadening that range of options in a multimodal system, was enhanced and moved forward. So, and it was so interesting to us to see how consistent that was in terms of those kind of priorities across all of Metro Nashville. Then there was still a lot of interest, of course, in all those other categories. And we know that a successful multimodal system will need all of that. We followed that up at the very end when we got down to our recommendations with a survey on what's called the hub here at Metro Nashville, and got a lot of additional input there. So altogether, we had about 3,000 or so different voices and input around all of both the development of the activity and then what the recommendations were as we move forward with the development and adoption of the plan. As we talked about some of those core things, we knew that there were several really core pieces of the plan. Traffic management and we've mentioned that before, is a huge issue for us. Our system is in real need of modernization. And again, that's traffic moving, all different kinds of traffic. It's not just cars. Successfully, efficiently, effectively, safely in and around Metro Nashville and connecting into the region. But validations to the project cost estimates and scopes. Remember, we were relying upon all those past efforts, making sure that we were looking at those and we were refreshing that information so that our thoughts around this curation of what we were going to include in the plan to meet this right-sized effort that the mayor wanted to advance was met. The opportunistic funding strategy was really unique. We knew that now was not the right time to come to the community, as some past efforts had done, with a dedicated funding source, a referendum, a bond. There's, especially with the economic impacts to the community, and as the mayor mentioned, that remarkable year we've had, Metro Nashvillians have been hit first by some severe, budget matters that caused some really, profound conversations around public finance and so forth in Metro Nashville, which resulted in a historic property tax increase. So there was that impact that had been met. Then there was the tornado, then of course the pandemic, and then the economic recession. We just knew we knew that there was only so much that you really should bring before a community that's that deeply impacted. And what we knew is that we've still got to make progress. No excuses. Still got to make progress. So we said, let's do something a little different, and let's really rely upon an opportunistic funding strategy that relies upon existing committed Metro resources. So no new taxes, no new dedicated funding sources. But how can we really dig deeply into that and be aggressive and creative and innovative and do the very best we can to make sure we're meeting the needs of our residents? And so this opportunistic funding strategy analyzed over 200 different funding sources, curated that down to about 70-ish that were appropriate for Metro Nashville, that were within Tennessee state law, within our code, or had some reasonable, feasibility to it. And we began to match out of that toolbox, if you will, of funding strategies. We began to match those different tools back to the actual projects that we were including in the plan. So we were making it very real and very consequential in terms of its effort. And we'll talk a little bit about some of our early success. I know the mayor mentioned that a little bit earlier in his comments, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Then we wanted to make sure, one of the things that every city in America is dealing with right now, and it's no different here, is we wanted to be sure that we were metro-wide in our approach, because that's one of the criticisms that we had heard of previous efforts, was that all of Metro Nashville didn't see improvements or didn't have even the opportunity to be as deeply involved as they'd like, that neighborhood focus that the mayor wanted to achieve was there. But then this notion, the notion of how can we be real and impactful and meaningful around equity? That was the intention of our effort. Those threads were threads that went through everything that we did. How can we reach everyone? How can we be sure that we're making a difference at the neighborhood level? And how can we do a better job on equity, which, in large measure, in most transportation plans, equity is approached as a matter of policy. It's also approached in the implementation of projects through things like the executive orders on environmental justice and the NEPA process and so forth. All of those things are very important tools, but we wanted to go a little further than that, and we're going to talk about what we developed to do that. Next slide. Next slide. So the plan highlights, this overall $1.6 billion plan has two major portfolios, a transit portfolio that totals just over $825 million. It includes the Better Bus Service expansion, a Murfreesboro Pike Bus Rapid Transit project, Clarksville Pike Rapid Bus, and improvements to the WeGo Star commuter rail. In addition, we have a portfolio, it's the traffic multimodal safety portfolio, about $818 million. So you can see that we were looking at a balance of investment to make this overall multimodal system works effectively. And it includes those things, again, if you can map back to what we heard in all of those listening sessions, we can demonstrate we were listening, because what we heard is directly reflected not only in the portfolios, but in the levels of investment that you see. So the $818 million includes sidewalks, state of good repair, the Jefferson Street area improvements that the mayor talked about, including the potential for some sort of a multimodal connector that can help to reunite the community that was divided there by the interstate system development. Restoration and resiliency, state routes and partnership funding is an innovation and sustainability corridors is all one bucket, if you will. And it's a bucket of funding that does a couple of things. With the partnership funding in particular, it gives us some flexibility so that when partnership opportunities come along, when there are emerging opportunities or emerging needs, that we have the opportunity to be nimble because we've got some partnership funding bucketed there, ready to go to help make those opportunities happen. Obviously, working with TDOT on state route matters that may come up. And then the innovation and sustainability corridors, Gallatin and Charlotte, are two corridors that we identified that we want to do some test bed piloting around looking at some particular issues or some particular opportunities, innovation in the Charlotte corridor around technology and sustainability, and also including technology in that in Gallatin. How can we make some demonstrations of what we can do there that could have application throughout our system and frankly to other systems throughout the country? Safety, vision zero, and traffic calming is a very important bucket for us. The mayor and I are going to be participating on Saturday morning with a memorial for pedestrian deaths with Walk Back Nashville, a local organization that focuses on those matters. And unfortunately, our trends there are in the wrong direction. So the mayor announced last year that we would become a Vision Zero city. We have been working diligently on that. Of course, the first thing that we needed to do was to begin to develop an action plan. That action plan kicks off on February the 19th. And we will be focusing particularly on pedestrian fatalities and on those 7 corridors that are some of the ones that represent the highest, make the highest contribution to those tragedies that we are determined to turn that trend around. Active transportation, bikeways and greenways, another very important part of the plan and a significant amount committed there. And then our traffic management system signal upgrades, which we know our traffic signal system needs to be modernized, and it will make such a difference not only in how we manage congestion, but also in how we can improve safety. And it will make a huge congestion in some of these regional corridors where we know our connectivity to the region is so important. And then the downtown neighborhood traffic project. This is a project that I give Steve Bland, our CEO at WeGo, the majority of credit for this. We had a lot of very lively discussions within our team and deliberations around what we were hearing from the public and how we really could make improvements and make a difference. And what we realized is our downtown, and we refer to it this way oftentimes, is the Wild West of traffic. We've got people who are walking, we've got scooters, we've got pedal taverns, we've got transit vehicles, we've got cars and commuters, we've got delivery vehicles, we've got everything happening in downtown. And so the notion of figuring out how do you really want to prioritize all that activity, it is fundamental to the success of our transit system and the better bus improvements in particular. And then it's also fundamental to how this traffic management system can be its most successful self. Is we've got to really sort of anchor around what is the prioritization of activity in the downtown, and that will then guide us to how we want to manage it, which will then make sure that the investments that we're going to make perform most successfully. Next slide. So our priorities included upgrading the bus system, tackling traffic, and as I've mentioned several times, modernizing our traffic management system, investing in neighborhood infrastructure, including sidewalks, bikeways, and greenways, improving safety and advancing the mayor's Vision Zero action plan, and then exploring the creation of a Nashville Department of Transportation. Currently, our transportation functions are primarily housed within Public Works, but are also spread across 4 to 5 different metro departments. We know that we can perform more efficiently, more effectively, and with greater accountability if we have that in a focused group of a Department of Transportation. So I would look forward to hearing some announcements around that over the next 60 days or so from Metro Nashville and the mayor's office. Next slide. Equity by design. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we did is we dug very, very deeply into equity and how we could deepen the equity in our infrastructure. The mayor mentioned for this transportation plan, we wanted to remember one of the things we challenged ourselves was, did we really have a metro-wide plan? Had we really touched people? And so we decided to fact check ourselves, to truth ourselves, had the planning department do a GIS analysis of the proposed at that time program of projects that we were going to bring forward in the plan. 92% of Metro Nashville's population is within a half a mile of a project, and 94% of Metro Nashville's employment is within a half a mile of a project. That's remarkable, and we were very pleased that that intention that I talked about that we carried through the entire plan, that not only was it an intention, but we had realized what our purpose was there. The Equity by Design tool is a tool that takes us beyond the kind of analysis that's typically done now, either by policy and vision statements or even in the executive orders around environmental justice and the NEPA process. But we've defined 17 different, actually now 18, because we've added one around gentrification, 18 different facets of equity. And we developed a tool that we are going to apply in the design of each and every project, so that each and every project looks at all those facets of equity and makes determinations around how can we do better to make sure that that facet of equity, that we're building a better connected project. So it's literally happening in the design of each project, and each project is designed to make that contribution and does so, then we necessarily will build a system that has a much stronger equity bone to it than I think that we currently have. And we're very excited about this. One of the things that we are doing, as the mayor mentioned, is we are participating in the Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge this year. And the sort of really putting all the meat on the bone of what we developed during the transportation plan process, really developing this tool out as our focus in that challenge. And so far we are continuing to move through that process and are very hopeful to be successful there and give ourselves a chance to, like I said, make it an even more meaningful. Next slide. So 2021 progress and opportunities. Mayor mentioned the Charlotte Avenue MLK Innovation Corridor. We were absolutely beyond excited and pleased to hear that we were one of the recipients of an ATC MTD award in partnership with TDOT, a federal highway grant there. And it is focused on transit and traffic technology and the combination of those things, very much a multimodal effort there in the Charlotte Avenue corridor, which is one of our highest demand corridors in all of Metro Nashville. That partnership, as the mayor mentioned, would simply not have been possible without the work of Commissioner Bright's team over at TDOT, and we deeply appreciate it. But it was actually less than a month after the plan was approved, we found out about that grant award. So it energized us even more around this approach that we're taking to opportunistic funding. The Downtown Neighborhood Traffic Project has been submitted for a new grant opportunity at the state level. It's a public-private partnership. I believe Tom Turner is a participant in our meeting this morning as well at the Downtown Partnership. The funding for this particular project that we have proposed includes the grant opportunity if we're successful there, but also includes funding from WEGO, funding from Metro Nashville, and funding from the Downtown Partnership. It's an incredible way to look at how we focus on that transit and traffic prioritization, but it's an incredible way to approach how you get things done. We're also included the Second Avenue blast recovery, which when we first started developing that grant application had not occurred, but when it did, we made sure to include that in there because obviously recovery of that area is a focus for how we manage the neighborhood traffic there. The Traffic Management Center, we are currently investing in the design for our Traffic Management Center. We don't have one now. We have a physical location, but don't have the guts of it built out. And we are aiming towards a CMAQ opportunity for implementation funding in the spring that would enable us to actually build it out. But we do have design underway. I've already mentioned the Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge, so I won't go through that again. And then, of course, we're in the middle of the Metro budget process right now, and all of those sort of buckets of project types, whether it's sidewalks or active traffic, or active transportation, or all of those other things that we've talked about through the course of this presentation. We're making sure that the mayor's office is supporting strong investments in those categories so that this transportation plan really does come to life. And then we are also going to be focusing this year on an update soon of the Metro walk bike plan and our sidewalk prioritization. One of the things we know is that our sidewalks right now cost too much and take too long to deliver. And it's a really important, as you remember, it's one of the top three, what we heard from the community of the kinds of investments that they want to see. And we are working now to both, and we're working in collaboration actually with TDOT's helping us with that too, to look at what some of our costs are and do some good cost comparisons and figure out what are the ways that we can improve our delivery and improve our cost effectiveness. Next slide. All right, so I am all done talking, and I appreciate again the fact that so many of you have joined us this morning and are giving us the opportunity. The way that we will be successful and the way that Metro Nashville will continue to prosper is only through partnerships. It's the way you get everything done. And so I appreciate the fact that there's so many partnerships and so many parties that are interested in and will be a part of helping us to do exactly that are on this call this morning. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Bright. Both Commissioner Bright and our two modal administrators for FHWA and FTA will make some remarks now around both what they see coming in both 2021, but also with a new administration coming in. And then we'll come back and close with any questions, comments that the larger group may have. Commissioner Bright?
Thank you, Okay. Okay, great. So I'm filling in for Paul Deggs, our chief engineer, so it's okay. And
oh my.
I want to share some thoughts as far as kind of where we started about a year and a half ago and where you guys are today, or where we all are today. But about a year and a half ago, we sat down with the governor, and for whatever reason, TDOT didn't seem to be as actively involved in some of the previous plans within Nashville. And we told the governor we needed his, approval as far as getting out on the limb. But we felt like it was our job to take a leadership role, a support role in the different communities in Middle Tennessee, and what we were all trying to do for transit, for traffic, and for all that, and that we need to do that. And he was fully supportive. So about 4 days after Mayor Cooper took office, we had a meeting with Mayor Cooper and Faye. I think you were there. The surrounding county mayors and a few city mayors were in that meeting, and it gave us a chance to relay that message and what our thoughts were moving forward with the congestion management plan that we were working on internally. But the biggest part of that was the opportunity for all of us to sit around the table and collaborate and work together. And there are different funding buckets, and we all have different responsibilities. But if we were not working together as far as this planning, it certainly wasn't going to be successful. So that's kind of where we started. And we met with them again this past summer as far as where we were on the plan and how we were continuing on with that project. Also, something that we did probably over a year or so ago, we took a group down to Tuscaloosa to meet with ALDOT down there. I think Arcadis was the engineer that was involved with all that going on down there, the city of Tuscaloosa, the professors down there, the engineers. And we really wanted to see and understand what they were doing with their traffic ops down there, the technology they were using with their traffic signals, the communications between vehicles and infrastructure and all that. So it was a great trip. Brad Freeze, who heads up our traffic ops here, and is really on the cutting edge of what we are doing internally with technology. He kind of led that effort, making that trip down there. Jeff Hammond with Metro was on that trip. Dr. Coles with UT, who is an expert with traffic signalization, was on that trip. And also Dr. Dan Work over at Vanderbilt, who is an expert in traffic, was on that. So it was a very productive trip. I think we learned a lot, and hopefully some of that is going to start coming to fruition with what Faye and the mayor and their group are trying to do here. Faye talked about grant support out there. So trying to understand how we at the state level, and I think Pam's going to speak next, how we can support some of your efforts and identify opportunities there, both at the state level and the federal level. We want to support that. Obviously, there is no single bullet here as far as addressing all the different concerns and issues that we have in Davidson County, and more important to me is Middle Tennessee. So there's no single bullet there, but I really commend Faye and what she's trying to do here, and what she's already done so far is really addressing all the aspects of the issues we have out there. I think all of us just being smart and working together will bring this to fruition. And I mean, TDOTs consists of a lot of engineers. That's really what makes up us. In approaching these problems from an engineering point of view and from a business point of view is the direction and the line of thought that we're taking here. I commend the mayor's office in being very open and transparent in what y'all are trying to do. Again, getting back to that conversation, if we're not dovetailed together and all working together, it won't. It certainly will not be as good as it could be. And also working with Steve and his group over at WeGo on the transit side of it. I think Michael Skipper's on the call today, working with this group with the Nashville MPO, because we have got to have that planning for all of our projects, especially on the TDOT side. Having that planning well in advance will be that funnel. And I know we're in the planning process, and if you don't start early on with the planning process, it's hard to deliver projects that are out there. So you've got to start with a plan. And also, as I said, Pam's about to speak with us, but Pam is such a tremendous partner for us in what we do as far as trying to understand how we can spend those dollars, what are the opportunities out there for different funding mechanisms. So Pam will be an important part of our team, as she is now and will continue to be. So like I said, we can't start without a plan, and that's where we are today. And the other thing to remember that I think we all know is where we have been in COVID for a while here, and traffic and transit issues have maybe decreased somewhat. I fully expect those to come back with a vengeance when we get through the pandemic, and it will certainly be a snowball. So we have got to try and get ahead of the situation that we have here. So again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Faye, for letting us be a part and sharing some of your thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. We could not have a better partner than you. It's remarkable, and we appreciate everything you're saying. The mayor mentioned about traffic coming back with a vengeance, and I should tell you, the mayor and I met actually with the commissioner yesterday, and little fact. That's just not us supposing that the traffic will come back. One of the things that one of the metrics that we learned in the news last week was that U-Haul said that we were the number one destination for U-Haul rentals in the country this past year. People are moving to Nashville, and as Commissioner Bright said, once we start to move out and about again, once the vaccine really gets into our communities and so forth, there is no question that our traffic, our transportation system, and our transit systems are going to be in demand. And so being ready for that, but we couldn't have a better partner than Commissioner Bright, so thank you so much. With that, I'm going to turn over to Division Administrator for Tennessee for Federal Highway Administration, Pam Cordenbright. Pam?
Good morning, Faye. Good morning, everybody. Mayor Cooper, everyone, thank you for the opportunity and the invitation to come and speak with you today. I feel like so much that I wanted to say has been said, so I will add a little bit to the comments. First of all, thank you so much for including FHWA in this conversation and the kind words from Commissioner Bright and from Faye. We are very proud to be your federal partner, your federal highway partner. And I know Yvette is on the call and she's your federal transit partner, and she's going to be also speaking with you. But both of us, I'll speak for us both, Yvette, for half a second, that we are very happy to be here as a part of this team. I wanted to give a congratulations to the mayor and to Faye and to all the partners on the ATC MTD. We speak in acronyms on the federal level, and that stands for Advanced Transportation Congestion Management Technologies Deployment Program, and that's why we call it the ATC MTD, because that's quite a bit. It's part of the FAST Act, and it's actually, if I'm not mistaken, Faye, Nashville's first, and I expect not last, opportunity for federal discretionary funding. So we are active partners with the city and to deliver that project. And so as the first, we're also learning. We're also going to be working to make sure that we deliver on the proposal and making sure that we provide the city and our citizens exactly what we promised, right? The partnership at the local, state, and federal level across all levels is critical for solving our issues and taking advantage of opportunities as they present themselves, like this grant and like this plan that Faye talked about. So, great transportation helps communities and people succeed. We're in a Biden administration where we have Secretary-elect or Secretary nominated Pete Buttigieg that should be going through the Senate confirmation process this week, if not early next week. He comes on board. I know Stephanie Pollock, who is formerly with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation as its secretary, has been identified as the deputy administrator for FHWA. And she comes with a lot of multimodal experience and a lot of focus on and many of the things that Faye talked about: sidewalks, complete streets, safety, making sure that the transportation system, and it is a system and it all works together, highways, transit, sidewalks, everything, but we all work together to provide a system to our constituents and to our citizens. So I suspect that that Stephanie is going to come in with that same message for FHWA, and stay tuned. We're all stay tuned, including us, on new initiatives that are coming out from the administration as well as FHWA as a whole. So once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in this. We are here to help. I know you hear that from the feds, but it's true. We are here to help, and anything that we can do to support the efforts of the plan, the department, the city, and all y'all, please, by all means, give us a call. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Pam. And again, I want to take just a minute to thank Pam for the kind of partnership, not only from Pam, but from her entire staff that has supported us in the development of the plan and in looking at projects and issues and ways that we can help better our transportation system here in Metro Nashville. They've been an extraordinary and exemplary partner, and I thank them for that. And the project, I should mention really quickly, we keep stressing partnerships. The ATC MTD grant was a partnership between Metro Nashville, TDOT, and the feds. And so it's all about partnerships in terms of how we put these strategies together and make these projects happen. Thank you, Pam. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Yvette Taylor. Yvette, we are so glad to have you with us here today, the FTA Region 4 Administrator for Federal Transit. Thank you.
All right, well, good morning, Faye. I hope you can see me and hear me okay.
We got you.
All right, perfect. Well, good morning to everyone. First, I want to echo the words of Pam, my counterpart in Federal Highways. We're very, very pleased to have the opportunity to be here today. So thank you, and Steve Lamb, for inviting the FTA to be a part. I think a couple of my staff are also participating and listening in today. Also, I just want to say to Mayor Cooper and Commissioner Bright, you guys should be definitely commended for the vision that you have and the commitment to building and sustaining a robust transportation infrastructure throughout Nashville, throughout the Nashville area. So we're very proud of this vision that you have, and we certainly want to be a partner with you. We've always appreciated the important work that you do there in Nashville, and particularly serving public riders on public transportation. But we also recognize there's been challenges across our nation due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we recognize that this has had a drastic impact on ridership, on revenues, as well as just even some cutbacks and changes in your service levels. So we're very appreciative that we've had the CARES funding, been able to provide that funding to Nashville. We have the CRISA funding that's coming forward. We're working to get that out as soon as we possibly can. We've certainly been a supporter and working with the MTA and RTA under the leadership of Steve Bland and a lot of different transit projects. And our goal is that we will continue that partnership. You all have a lot of good ideas, loving the fact that public transit was viewed as a #1 priority there in Nashville. You have a couple of BRTs that you're trying to advance. We certainly want to be there at the table with you and help to support you as you move it forward. I do want to say that under the new administration, we have a new deputy administrator, Nuria Hernandez, who comes from the Valley Transportation Authority, very knowledgeable of transit. She's the CEO, was the CEO of a transit operating agency in California. So we feel like she's going to hit the ground running. We're going to have a great advocate for transit. She will be building very good relationships with our transit operators throughout the nation. We also anticipate that we're going to still have the same types of discretionary program funding available in 2021 and beyond. And so I just want to remind you all that as you're executing your transportation plan, there's federal dollars that's going to be out there, both the formula funds that's available, but the discretionary and competitive funds are going to be available as well. I'm going to encourage you to leverage those dollars and come in and apply for those programs. And just to remind you of a few of those, we're proceeding with a build proposal or notice of funding opportunity that will be coming out for about $1 billion. That's an opportunity there for great multimodal projects. We'll continue with our bus and bus facility program. Also, our transit-oriented development planning, if you're bringing in the private sector around some of these new corridors. And then we have these specialized programs that you're seeing. And congratulations to MTA for getting HOPE funding that you all just recently received, as well as the COVID-19 research funding. So they're definitely willing to go after the federal dollars. I just want to say that we're here. We'll work with you. We'll partner with you in any way possible. Again, we're excited that you have this plan in place, that you're putting transit on the forefront, and we want to be right there with you as we go forward. So again, thank you, Faye, for having the FTA be a part of the open house today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to open it up now for any questions. I wanted to mention a couple of other things. While the transportation plan was certainly our big lift for this year, we all obviously had a lot of other transportation related things going on at the same time. We are working on some of the more sort of mundane, I guess, back office kinds of things, like improving, and I mentioned some of this around project delivery, project development and delivery, our business processes to support that. We also are in very short order, we'll be releasing a smart parking RFP. We were selected last year by an organization called Cord to do a demonstration project around digital curbside management. We're going to be doing that in a loading unloading zone in our downtown. That project actually starts next week. And then we've got smart parking going on, this downtown neighborhood traffic project. And of course, like all American cities, we all have had our experiences with scooters. We worked very hard last year on a new RFP, just recently awarded to 3 vendors that are going to be hosting scooter and urban mobility device services in Metro Nashville. And it's a completely different business approach and arrangement that we took. We've shifted to a performance-based contract. And we're looking very forward to seeing how that helps to influence the results and so forth with our partners in the scooter world, and how that interfaces with our overall urban transportation system. So with those things, I will stop talking and invite anyone who might have a question or comment. We would love to, let's see, 70 says if you'd like to pose a question, send it through text, or I guess, or you can just please, Stephanie, can they unmute themselves or can I put it in chat?
Yes, ma'am. We're just providing them both options where if they'd like to pose their question through chat to have it documented, they're more than welcome to. And then if they'd like to pose a question, they can certainly unmute themselves.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Any comments or questions from anyone? please feel free to jump in if you do. All right. Well, again, thank you all so much for your participation this morning. We hope that this was an informative open house around what we're doing and how we're doing it. If you think after this, after the session concludes this morning, of a comment or question that you didn't think to ask and now want to, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or to Steve Bland if it's a transit question. Although we work together on all of these things, please don't hesitate to reach out to ask us anything. And again, we so much appreciate all the partnerships that are represented here. And we appreciate your time and attention to this absolutely transformational effort for Metro Nashville that we are undertaking. Hope you all have a very good weekend. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Absolutely.